The preseason college football AP top 25 poll came out on Monday. We're going to talk about it in this video as well as the quarterback battle and some bold predictions ahead of Notre Dame's opener against Miami. Folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the channel for more content. Head over to blueandgold.com. Up on the screen, there's the top 25 poll. Notre Dame at 6, Miami's in the 10 slot. I got Eric Hansen and Tyler Horka, Blue and Gold beat writers with me. Eric, you're a member of this voting poll. Where did you put Notre Dame, and is there anything that stands out to you in looking at this this top 25?
Yeah, I had Notre Dame 4th on my poll. They're 6th in this. I think that's a good spot for them. Texas, Penn State, and Ohio State were my top 3. Where I differentiate most with the overall poll in the top of it is Clemson. I had Clemson further down the top 10. I love their defense. I'm not sold on their offense. And they have a really tough beginning of their schedule. So that's where I would differentiate.
Yeah, if you're looking at it from a Notre Dame perspective, I think a lot of the detractors are probably saying, well, they're breaking in a new quarterback. And as we stand here on August 11th, Eric, myself, Mike, none of us know who that new quarterback is going to be. So that's a little alarming, I suppose. But then you look at the rest of that top 10. I mean, Texas is breaking in a new quarterback. At least Arch Manning has started a couple of games, so there's that. But like up and down that top 10, Drew Aller is really the only known commodity. Cade Klubnik as well, obviously, and I think that's why you see Clemson in the top 5 as well. But like at some point, you have to throw out that whole quarterback conversation because it's widespread across college football. I mean, look at Georgia. Gunnar Stockton's not very proven as a quarterback as well. Oregon, Dante Moore. Who's Alabama going with? Is it Ty Simpson? Do I have that right? Who's going to be their starter? It's like, yeah, everyone's got a little bit of that problem. So if you are Clemson or Penn State, I think you kind of cling to that and say, that's why we're in the top 5. But I will say also, man, Penn State's kind of ruined a 1-2 matchup to start the season. I think it would have been the first of all time in the Associated Press poll era for the number 1 and number 2 team in the country to meet in week 1, but it's not happening, obviously.
Something that sticks out real quick is 2 teams that Notre Dame should be in the playoff, ranked in the top 5. Eric, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, with the first-year quarterback, I think people go overboard with that too. I like to remind them that on the last 16 national champions, 9 have had first-year starters as their quarterback.
Let's move on and talking about those 2 quarterbacks. Eric, we did a video, I want to say it was last week after the first few days of fall camp. Now we're about a week and a half into it. What do we have new on the quarterback battles? Or really any new developments? It still seems like a tight battle between CJ Carr and Kenny Minchey.
Yeah, and I think that's really kind of the surprise of camp, that it is a tight battle, that it's not just the coaches saying that the media is also saying that. Because I think going into August, we're like, well, CJ Carr, and when is this going to be over? But I still believe CJ Carr is going to be the one who prevailed. But I mean, Kenny Minchey improved a lot in the spring, and he's really made this very competitive. And if he wins it, I think Notre Dame is still going to be in good shape.
I'm starting to lean toward Kenny Minchey, guys. And this is coming from someone who was CJ Carr all the way through in terms of the offseason. Like as soon as Riley Leonard left, my mind instantly went to CJ Carr as the starting quarterback for the University of Notre Dame, because it just felt like that was going to be the case. You finally have this. You could still call him a freshman. We're calling him a redshirt freshman now. You don't have to call him a sophomore because he didn't play enough football last year to earn that sophomore status, if you will. And then the same thing with Kenny Minchey, though. Like he's only a year ahead of CJ Carr, so I don't think experience is what is driving this competition. I don't think Marcus Freeman and Gino Guidugli, for instance, and Mike Denbrock, throw him in there as well, see Kenny Minchey as this vastly more experienced player than CJ Carr. That's just not what it is. He's thrown 3 passes in college football games. CJ Carr's thrown 0. You're starting someone new, whoever it's going to be. But Minchey, I think, has caught up considerably to Carr just in the way that he's perceived by his teammates. He's perceived by his coaches. I think every day that this battle lingers, people look at him and say, yeah, that could be our starting quarterback. That could be a guy that we want to roll out there first with the starters against Miami. So is it going to happen? I don't know. Eric could be right, and it could still be CJ Carr, and I'll look like a fool for ever changing my opinion. But as it goes on, I do go more and more Kenny Minchey every single day.
I think Tyler made a better argument than me, but but I still think what I know of CJ Carr, his background and what he can turn into, I still think upside factors into this. And I think CJ Carr has a higher upside. When we think about last year in August, Steve Angeli in Notre Dame system had the higher floor, and Notre Dame bet on the guy with the higher ceiling and felt like they could bring him along in a fast enough timeline to make that pay off. I think CJ Carr is still the guy with the higher ceiling, but man, Kenny Minchey has made it interesting.
I will say this. I think it's more likely that, say if you start Kenny Minchey, I think CJ Carr has a better chance of stealing the job away midseason, whether that's Minchey playing poorly in games or CJ taking those next steps that you're talking about, Eric, as opposed to starting CJ Carr and Kenny Minchey coming in. Like if CJ gets his shot, I do think you're going to see enough things, even if it goes poorly, even if he throws some picks, you're going to see some moxie. You're going to see some leadership. That's the one thing that's missing from Kenny Minchey. And that's why my mind didn't go to Kenny Minchey in January or February. I see CJ Carr and aura is the hot word in the streets right now, right? Aura, however you want to say that. CJ Carr has a lot of that aura. And like Kenny Minchey, he's reserved. I don't think that's to a fault, but like CJ Carr is going to wear his emotions on his sleeve for better or worse. And a lot of the times that's going to be for better. And I think he has everything that you're looking for in a QB1. The question is, does he have it right now? Does he have it going into Miami in 3 weeks? We're going to figure that out in the next couple weeks.
Does he have what it would take to be a package quarterback too if he doesn't win the job? Would Notre Dame do that? I think if they would think about that, they're not going to want to be really upfront about that. They're going to want it to be a surprise.
Eric, do you have a bold prediction? After a week and a half, anything new you've learned? That's like, man, you want to call your shot, whether it's a position battle or something else?
I think as far as position battles, the only one that's really up for grabs for a starter is the safety spot next to Adon Schuler. And we've seen different people kind of rotate in there, Luke Talich and Jalen Stroman, and I love Tay Johnson. But this is more of a rotational one. I went into camp with this bold prediction, and I'm going to stick with it, and that's Cam Williams. I think at some point Cam Williams is going to be a factor at wide receiver. I'm not sure how that's going to look on the field or the boundary side, but I think he gets on the field, and we can finally answer the question, what happened to Cam Williams? Why isn't he playing?
I think here I'll throw a few bold predictions at you guys. Elijah Burris is going to make an impact this year, and that's something that Williams didn't do last year. Micah Gilbert, Logan Saldate, like those freshmen didn't crack the rotation. I think Elijah Burris cracks the rotation as a freshman, and that means he's probably jumping some of those guys that I just mentioned. And here's a couple other things that I've heard enough, I've seen enough throughout fall camp, and I've kind of been on these two things even before that. Bryce Young is going to lead this team in sacks. I think the breakout is coming, and it's going to be tight with him and Boubacar Traore. I love Boubacar Traore as a player as well, but Bryce Young, like the explosion is coming. And then as for the wide receivers, I think Will Pauling is going to be this team's number 2 wide receiver in terms of catches, yards, whatever it is. He did it at Wisconsin in 2023. He's got a good rapport with Mike Brown. Like the way Marcus Freeman talks about him being a dog, and then you listen to him in his press conference that we got to speak to him on Sunday. Love everything about the guy. He's experienced. I think it's Malachi Fields and Will Pauling. Those are your top 2 receivers. And Pauling might not even start. Like Jordan Faison probably going to start over him in the field. Jaden Greathouse is definitely starting in the slot. But I think as that first guy off the sideline, if you will, it's going to be Pauling, maybe for the slot, maybe for the field. You can put him in multiple different positions. He's going to get a lot of looks, and he's going to get a lot of catches and do a lot of really good things for this football team. I firmly believe that.
Mike and Tyler, I think before Kevin Bauman got hurt, this would have been bolder, but I think Ty Washington is a really interesting guy. He could be boom or bust, but Mike Denbrock's belief in him, that's the guy that stood on the table for him, and he's the one that calls the plays and rotates in the tight ends, all kind of lean toward boom with him. He has such a different skill set than Eli Reardon. And again, with Kevin Bauman being gone for the season, it heightens the importance that he turns out to be that guy.
Yeah, especially as a veteran guy in that room and someone who's played, I played some big time ball in the SEC. And yeah, that's going to do it for this video, folks. Please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the channel for more content. And as always, we will catch you guys next time.